Noah, thank you for joining me. As always, I had an idea this week. I was looking at some of HubSpot's new beta features, and they have a new feature with their Spotify integration that allows you to put dynamic product recommendations into a HubSpot email. And that just got me thinking about personalization in general and how that takes it so much deeper than just replacing the first name or company name in an email address or in an email to your customers. And I started thinking about how personalization works in the age of AI, which I think enables a ton of opportunity for personalization, but also introduces a lot of risk. So, just to kick things off, I guess I want to ask you, what do you feel like the expectations are from customers for personalization today?
Yeah, as we start thinking through the expectations, let's also talk about where we came from when it came to personalization. And as an organization, look at like market automation to begin with. How amazing was it when you can simply just add the first name to the email without actually having to go in and type it in? For a lot of you, you may be like, what? You couldn't always do that? No, you couldn't always do that. That was your original glorified mail merge back in the day, adding your first name and company name to an email. And versus now, it's you don't want that. Of course, first name, company, and those individual property fields should be incorporated into the email. But I want it to recommend a product. I want to recommend what product I think makes the most sense for you, individual customer, not necessarily for a segment that I've built out into a list. Companies' expectations around emails, and especially what AI is going to be able to do via the recommendation engine, allows us to not only go deeper, but also introduces a whole new set of opportunities for us. And I think this goes all the way back before what we think of as the next Netflix recommendation. You go into Netflix, it's going to recommend what additional movie or TV show you should watch next. That technology wasn't necessarily readily available for companies to be able to leverage in a big way. Now it is. I think where we were then was simply merging in first name, last name, and company name. Now it is making recommendations in an email, which is pretty awesome. But Ryan, what are you seeing? Given that you're director of demand gen, these are just simply new toys for you to play around with.
Yeah, it is exciting and daunting at the same time. I think the area where I see both the most opportunity and the most risk is in outbound, especially with enrichment tools like Clay. You can learn a ton about people before you even contact them. That gives you so much information with which to personalize your outreach. You can use AI to incorporate those pieces of information into an AI prompt to generate something that truly feels personalized. And HubSpot's new Ask Breeze workflow action is so cool. It's pulling in personalization tokens from within HubSpot, and then you can use it to generate something new. So you can take all of these little bits of information and create a dynamic first intro line for your email. And that is great. That allows you to do like really deep personalization at scale, but you run the risk of you are letting AI write something that you are not going to have the opportunity to check if you are doing this in an automated outbound way. And that is scary. That feels dangerous.
It is. There was a recent article in the Wall Street Journal. I believe it was about State Farm insurance reps. And it turns out people like communicating more with the AI than the actual reps themselves. It's able to pick up on the tone of the individuals it's speaking to and able to speak more clearly than an individual rep is able to speak to a potential customer versus AI. So hyper personalization goes even further. We are now personalizing not just based upon name and information and likes, but also who are they as people? There are tools out there like Crystal Knows. If you haven't used it, definitely check it out. I think I was like one of the first 100 customers of Crystal Knows 8 or 10 years ago. I still get special messages from the founder, which is fun. But it's like a disc assessment on a LinkedIn profile. And with that information, you're then able to tailor a message to the personality of the person that you're actually reaching out to and communicating with. So combine that with AI personalization now based upon the actual individual you're reaching out to, that then you can change the tone of the message itself to speak to that individual. And so I think what is scary is simply saying, hey, I'm completely off limits. I'm not going to touch it. AI, just go do the thing. And I think everyone who's listening, we can all recognize when you get an AI produced sales message because some of them are just bad. So not all AI is created equal, but I think as time goes on, we're going to have smarter sales engagements. AI is going to be listening to sales calls. We'll be able to figure out the intent. It'll be able to suggest the most relevant follow-up message, which it's already doing now. So some of what we're talking about, Ryan, is here today. But when we think about the risks of AI personalization, you mentioned one of them, which is a hands-off approach. But what are some of the other things that you're thinking about when it comes to risks and pitfalls?
First, I would say the kind of worst case scenario that I see is somebody that is using AI to write a generic message and not doing any personalization. You use ChatGPT to craft a generic outbound message, and then you still just use the first name token and pop it at the top, and then you're really like you're truly not personalizing, and you have the downside of a generic AI message that people are going to recognize as AI. So that's worst case scenario. But I think there's also big risks when it comes to bad data. Nobody has a clean CRM. Let's be honest.
What? No one has a clean CRM? What are you
Aptitude 8
talking
does not
about?
have the cleanest CRM. We do pretty well, but like it's very difficult. We have a small team. A lot of RevOps teams and marketing ops teams are over capacity. It's hard to keep up with all that stuff. And we as a company help people do that cleanup. But if you have bad data in your CRM, then the AI that you're using to generate this stuff is pulling from that bad data, and that can result in like pretty huge downstream mistakes.
So maybe it's really AI. And one of the things that we're seeing now, if you think of like HubSpot and Breeze Intelligence and be able to automatically enrich data that you have in your system, is it's been the holy grail is good data inside a CRM. And there is that many multi-billion dollar industry to simply enrich and clean your CRM data to make sure it's good. Because what we also know in order for AI to be really productive, and you probably hear it more now than ever, is that you need the good data inside the system so the AI can actually activate based upon that data. And without all your data inside the system, with one hand tied behind your back, you can't effectively communicate because you may or may not know everything about that particular customer. But even once you start having all this information about this particular customer, there are still a lot of risks when it comes to AI personalization. And I think one thing we've talked about is over personalization. So Noah, I saw you wrote this particular article. It seems like you also like the Baltimore Ravens, which I had nowhere on LinkedIn, but I do like that. Sorry to hear about that loss. How do you know I'm really that sad? I am sad. And again, this is many weeks ago that the Ravens got kicked out of the playoffs. But anyway, long story short, where I'm going with this is you can go too far and it can feel too creepy.
It's the creep
And
factor for
there's
sure.
Honestly, it totally is. And it's perfect language. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In fact, I'm excited that AI has now improved our ability to communicate where there's less misunderstanding, which I think is a huge thing for us. Now, one thing we talked about is, and I mentioned it earlier, AI's ability to pick up on human behavior, the type of individual you're talking to. So I don't really know if it lacks emotional intelligence. It may actually have a certain degree of emotional intelligence built into it, more so than more people. But go
Depends
ahead.
on the context. I could totally see AI having some behavioral intelligence when it comes to the type of products you like or the type of content you like interacting with. But when it comes to like more sensitive interactions, if you're talking about a client who's a churn risk, like you don't want to introduce AI into that conversation without being incredibly thoughtful about how you're doing it.
You're referring to those very high. So I think we should also specify, I don't think AI takes people's jobs. I think AI makes people more productive. So if you think about if you're an individual and you're out in the marketplace, and let's say you had to respond to 10 emails because you had to be the one to respond to them, I think now you can divvy up and say, AI, you're going to take 8 or 9 of those emails. I'm going to take that one that's most difficult. And now you can put a lot more attention where it's best suited because AI is essentially filling in those gaps, enabling you to spend more time where you need to spend time. So coming back to your point, I do think you bring up a very valid point that AI should only be handling so many different circumstances, and you should be very mindful about which ones AI is doing. The number one area that you see AI being leveraged for now, at least in my opinion, where direct human or direct interaction is really when it comes to chat or comes to managing ticket requests. That's a really common place because oftentimes those are simple, hey, here's the response that you need to be able to give based upon what that question is. Someone coming to you who is incredibly upset, angry, frustrated, AI can pick up on that perhaps, say, okay, this person is using wording that requires human intervention. I think where AI would be saying, hey, listen, let me go ahead and bring that different person in. But I also agree, and this is a big one, is compliance and ethical concerns. Where does it begin and where does it end? You've probably heard a lot of things about the exemption of AI in the news recently around it, but I think, and perhaps Ryan, you have some better insight than me, but using AI for personalization, if you don't align around your GDPR, TCPA, and other standards, it could lead to biting you.
Yeah, and those are complex regulations. They are changing pretty constantly, especially as they're reacting to AI. I am only so much up to date with what the newest thing is there. But if you are a business that is in a highly regulated industry, I would probably be pretty cautious about doing anything customer facing with AI that exposes that you use their data within AI. I think all industries can benefit from AI, but you probably need to be intentional about how you're using it, depending on how regulated you are.
I concur. And if you take away one piece, is take that away. Be safe when it comes to AI. I'm all about pushing the bounds on certain areas of the business, but when it comes to the AI and letting AI communicate on your behalf, that's a bridge a little bit too far for I think most companies to simply dive right into. But when striking the right balance between AI, so we talked about at the top of this, where it first starts with data hygiene. You got to make sure your CRM and intent data are clean, well structured before allowing AI to act on it. And you can use AI to help clean some of your data too,
Yes, that's
which I know is a
the
chore.
secret trick. No, I think honestly, an AI is really helpful here because it's so difficult to keep 100% of your data in your CRM clean. You can really design processes where when you need the right data, you can enrich it at that point and make sure it's accurate at that point. So you're not every single day putting your entire database through Zoom info to make sure that it's ready to send any email at any time. It's more like, okay, we need to send out this sequence. Let's make sure we're enriching every single person that it would go to. Or even like automated stuff like when someone fills out a form and then you have some sort of response as a result of that action, you can trigger enrichment off of an action like filling out a form. So you can really make sure that right before a communication goes out, it is enriched with the latest information that's available.
And that's something you've done very well, Ryan. And if you're looking for a wizard when it comes to your talking to the guy, I can help you think through those items, especially enriching information. I'm in agreement right there. I think AI is, it's funny, we're talking about how AI is used for personalization. We're like, at the same time, your data may not be clean, but use AI to fix your data, make it clean. So then another AI can start using it. Geez, we're just up here with our avatars doing all the work. We're
It's
hanging out,
AI all the way down.
and I think a lot of it also comes down to striking that right balance is the human AI collaboration piece, using AI for that research, drafting recommendations, but always having a human refine and review that messaging before sending. And I think that's another piece there is don't just send it and don't look at it. No, reread it. Make sure it's right. I don't know about you, but the amount of times I use AI, I hardly ever take what it says for what I want. No, I edit it, I clean it up. I make sure it's speaking to what I want. But in reality, I use AI more like a spell check to make sure I didn't just ruin my grammar and my spelling versus writing from scratch. Write a response. Like, no, I'm writing a response. Clean up my response. But
I
yeah, what are
totally
some
agree with
other
that.
areas?
I think that I've said it before, I'll say it again. I don't think there should be any AI processes where there wasn't a human involved at some point to do some quality control there. But when you're talking about doing this like on a more automated at scale level, which is really when this like hyper personalization comes in, you can't go through and have a human check every single email that an AI has personalized that's going to go out. We might be talking about hundreds or thousands of emails over the course of any given amount of time. But what I think you can do and you should do is when you are setting up those processes, run a variety of different kinds of data through the prompt that you've given the AI and see what comes out, and then refine the prompt over and over again until you get something that you are very confident is going to produce good output in a wide variety of different situations. See what happens if you throw some bad data at it and see if it can account for that.
So leaning into this conversation here, we're talking about how it's up to the user to refine the prompts, check the work. At what point should you disclose that you're using AI powered chatbot? And I think there's a lot of things going on right now that you may be communicating with AI and you have no clue. Now, I'll put this a caveat. It's one thing if you're going ahead and using like spell check and thesaurus to clean up your email, and then you're actually personally hitting send. I think that's a person. Just no different than using any other tool in the market. But at what point does transparency matter, and when should people start thinking about that as well?
I think it's always better to be more transparent than not. You've seen stories about, I don't remember whose chatbot it was. It might have been Delta, but people like broke the chatbot. It was responding as if it were a human. There was no indication that it was an AI. And then someone would put in a prompt into the text as a test to see if it was AI or not. And then it comes back and it like answers the prompt, which has nothing to do with whatever business it was for. People are going to know if you're using AI and you're not saying you are, it's just going to make you look shady. And what I'm starting to see more of is companies that are kind of doing some retraining of their customers, where you get an AI for a customer service chat and you immediately just start typing like agent, give me a human, trying to get to a human being so you can resolve your problem. And some companies are setting like actual hard limits on, we're not going to give you a human until you've talked to our AI for 10 minutes, because we firmly believe that it can solve 99% of the problems that our customers have. So if you talk to the AI for 10 minutes and it's still not solved, then we'll give you a human. Once the customer base and once people are retrained with that in mind, it'll be a better experience and you'll get your problem solved faster.
I can see the opposite. Give me AI. Give me AI. I don't want a person. It goes back to that Wall Street Journal article about State Farm, where people have better interaction with AI than they do a person.
Yeah.
They felt more heard, more empathetic, more communicative. Like we're definitely beyond the phase of the Turing test, where how machines can interact with humans and how automation essentially believing it's really human. Right? Are we beyond that?
If we're not, we are certainly pretty close. I'm with you though on AI. I'm already using a chatbot because I don't want to speak with the human beings. Might as well.
I think this all comes back to our conversation around the future of AI driven personalization. This is happening. It's happening right now. You're seeing it in chatbots, you're seeing your emails. I think the people who will ultimately dominate this space are the ones who actually get a grip on their data. And you're using AI both to clean and refine your data. And then you're also using AI to recommend, to personalize the communication going out. And I think if you take anything away from today's conversation, it was really focusing on making sure that you're okay with what's being sent. You're checking the information before it's being sent. And it's inevitable. People are going to be saying, let me talk to your AI. I don't want to talk to Ryan or Noah. Like, AI is going to give me a faster, better answer and get me right to the point more quickly. And they're going to say it nicely without ever seeming annoyed. But what guardrails should people start considering about putting into place now so it remains ethical and effective?
Yeah, I think as we've discussed, human intervention, make sure that any AI stuff you're implementing is quality tested ahead of time. In fact, even as you're running it, I would have regular checks to see that it's still producing the quality of output that you want it to. Make sure you're paying attention to any regulations that are changing, any requests to delete customer data, things like that, making sure that stuff is fully in compliance. Because as we know, if there's data in your technology and your technology uses AI, then AI is probably being trained on your customer data. So you really have to be thoughtful. Even though AI companies will tell you it's not going to train stuff on your data, time and time again, I feel like we've seen that it does.
And you have to be prepared that it is, no matter what or how you say it. Listen, we're in a whole new world. I think it's a fun place for us to be in at this point in time in terms of where AI is going. I think personalization is probably the quickest way. I think companies like HubSpot are doing a fantastic job rolling out additional AI capabilities. One of the things they talked about, especially for 2025, is the year of AI. And I think you're going to start seeing more of these concepts of AI agents. They're like an employee. You're going to ask it to do something, it goes ahead and does it. And I think what's going to happen to the human in all of this is just they're going to be more focused on the higher level tasks. The people who ultimately win are going to be the very creative types who are able to think about not only how do I leverage AI, but how can I have it help us do things faster? And personalization being one of them.
I totally agree. And I feel comfortable saying this because you are ultimately my boss. I think in terms of my role, all AI has done, it has not replaced my job. It has not replaced the job of anybody in our marketing org. it has raised the expectations for what is possible for one person to achieve. What I can do with AI is a significantly higher output than what I can do without it. And when you multiply that across a team, you just get compound benefits. But yeah, it's not replacing anybody over here.
No, and you nailed it. It is raising the bar for the team. Great thought. Ryan, this has been fantastic. I've enjoyed this conversation tremendously. Look forward to the next one.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Noah.